Will Natalie Elphicke be an asset to the Labour Party or a liability?
Lisa Nandy, Natalie Elphicke, obviously MP for Dover, a Conservative until 2 days ago, now a member of the Labour Party, and that has been to some consternation, I think it's fair to say, among a number of Labour MPs. An asset or a liability, Lisa?
Well, look, I think it's a very welcome thing that she's chosen to come across and join.
What a surprise. I'm so shocked that she would have that response as a twat.
I mean, it's hardly likely she was going to go, yeah, I hate the fact that she's joined. I think Starmer's done a real bad job here, when she's supposed to be representing his party on Question Time.
Our benches and to vote with us to protect people from the worst of this Tory havoc over the next few months and to try and bring...
Having voted for the Tory havoc.
But you know, it's fine, as long as you wear a red rosette. Anything that you might have done to ferment all of the crappy politics and policy that we've endured for 14 years, instantly forgotten immediately overnight. In fact, it's so forgotten, we'll let you help set policy for when we're in government, especially considering it's going to be on housing with the big crisis that this government literally created.
Awesome.
Bring about a general election. I think over and over again we've had by-election after by-election over the last 12 months, and I think people are crying out for the chance to choose change and to start rebuilding this country again.
How is having Natalie Elphicke on your benches change? She has been a government not government minister, a member of the governing party. That isn't change, is it? If you've got half a dozen Tories in your ranks, you're just the Tories. You don't represent change. Stop lying.
And I completely...
So an asset then? I mean, this is a woman who described Keir Starmer as a softie.
Well, look, I obviously completely disagree with that, and she says that she does now too. But the most important thing for me is that there is nobody in this country that can force a general election except Rishi Sunak or votes in Parliament. And we don't have the votes in Parliament in order to make that happen. I just don't know how I would go home to Wigan and say to my constituents who are sitting on NHS waiting lists, waiting for badly needed operations, people who are bringing up kids in damp, overcrowded, mouldy housing, who don't have the time to wait.
Natalie Elphicke was perfectly fine with those children living in damp, mouldy housing until 3 days ago.
She happily was part of the party that made those policies happen.
For Rishi Sunak to get on and call that general election, that we'd rejected somebody from coming and sitting on our benches, taking the Labour whip and voting with us to try and bring about that change that the country so desperately needs.
And let me just ask you, you could see that a lot of Conservative MPs as well as Labour MPs were very surprised when they suddenly saw her sitting behind Keir Starmer. Was that the first you knew of it as well?
It was, actually. I mean, you know, these things tend to be very quite difficult negotiations.
So did you think, I never saw that coming?
No, I would just say as well that actually, no, there's a lot of disquiet on the Conservative benches, as you can imagine. But what I think is really important is that, you know, it does take a lot to cross the floor. Whichever direction you do it in, it does take a lot. And I think the views that she expressed when she did so, when she said that this country just can't take any more of this Conservative government, I think she is speaking for a lot of people at the moment. And I'm grateful to her for agreeing to help to bring about that change. But most of all, I'm grateful to the very many people who looked at us 5 years ago, thought that we'd left them and that they'd lost their trust in us, and are starting to look again and are starting to think that they might put that trust in us and take that same step. And I promise you that if you do that, we won't let you down.
Nigel, so the question is, will Natalie Elphicke be an asset to the Labour Party?
You lost their trust in 2019 because you tried to overturn democracy by having another Brexit referendum in this very highly Brexit voting area, specifically in Stoke. And that was a Brexit policy of the 2019 Labour Party that was fomented by the literal current leader of the party.
Or a liability. I mean, you obviously must have thought she was an asset to the Conservative Party. So I guess you think she's going to be an asset for them as well?
Well, I believe she was an asset because I believe she shared our values. And I think she probably still does if you look at the comments that she's made and what she said on social media and her statements in the House of Commons. I mean, it's always sad when a colleague defects. It's not unusual.
I mean, it's the second one in 2 weeks now.
Well, true, but it goes both ways. I mean, Lisa Cameron joined the Conservative Party last year, and Churchill crossed the chamber twice. But I would say...
I mean, that is going back some considerable way.
But it's not uncommon, but I think I would say this. I think concern amongst Conservative MPs about Natalie Elphicke leaving the Conservative Party is as of nothing compared to the concern in the Labour Party about Natalie Elphicke joining Labour, because I don't believe for 1 minute that most Labour MPs believe that she shares her values. And if you just look at the quotes,
True.
Labour would take the country backwards on Brexit. Don't trust Labour on immigration. Labour back fewer and weaker border controls.
She's also said the She's
now
also
saying
said
this.
the Conservatives have become a byword for incompetence and division.
Well, I think it's...
Do you agree with that as well?
Well, with the greatest respect, if you are crossing the chamber, you're probably causing part of that division. But I would say, look, the reality is she's laid out a lot of opposing. She's spoken again and again against Keir Starmer, against Labour in a really visceral way. And I think many of those comments, you'll be Conservative Party leaflets quoting her as a Labour MP now. I think it shows poor judgment on the part of Keir Starmer to accept somebody into his
What a
party who
shock.
clearly, transparently does not share her values. So,
Do you
to be
think
honest, I don't think it's going to end well for Labour.
Do you think she will be the last Conservative MP to cross the floor?
Well, I certainly hope so, because...
Are you expecting any more defections?
I have to say, we talk about divisions, but what you don't comment on is the 330 incredibly loyal Conservative MPs who are fighting day in, day out to win a general election, because this next election is really, really serious. Our children and grandchildren's future is at stake, and we believe vehemently in making sure that we sustain a viable future for them with a Conservative government. So I can say actually there's a great deal of commonality.
You're saying that the problem is that people can't see a future for their children, and we need to find a way of being able to create that. That's your fault. You did that. Your party did that for the last 14 years and created the groundwork for this to happen over the last 14 years, from 1979 to 1997. And the Labour Party acquiesced to all of that misery that you created from 1997 to 2008 with a very short blip from 2008 to 2010. Like, that's you who did that. That's why we have no future. That is why, in polls, only 7% of 18 to 24-year-olds will vote for the Conservative Party.
Amongst Conservative MPs, and you will see us coming out fighting in this election.
Do you think whoever gets in on the next election, are they going to be full of promises like everyone else has been, full of promises, and then as soon as they get in, that's it?
Unfortunately so. If anything of Keir Starmer's behaviour every single time for the last 4 years is anything to go by, yeah, it'll all be broken promises, because the man breaks promises like a bull in a china shop. Like, the man relishes breaking promises. He almost seems to take, like, erotic pleasure out of breaking his promises. And again, because now we have a supine and awful media apparatus, he never gets called out for it, because he's the good, sensible one. And Boris Johnson was the floppy hair Brexit bad man. And therefore, lying is only bad when the Brexit man does it.
Yes, true.
They don't carry the promises over.
Okay, I will put that question in a minute. Man in the white shirt, yeah.
The former Conservative MP has criticised Keir Starmer and said she won't stand at the next election. So how wise is it of Keir Starmer to accept her so openly?
Okay, and I'm going to, yes, the man next to you, just a little bit further along.
Personally, I think it's a betrayal of the constituents who voted for her as a Conservative MP.
Yeah.
I mean, I like football.
I mean, literally is, yeah. I mean, most MPs, even ones with strong local support, get a very, very significant chunk of their support because they've got the word Conservative or Labour under their name.
Indeed, indeed so. And again, the whole point of first past the post is that you're not voting for the party, you're voting for an individual. Like, if you vote for a party in a list, proportional representation list, and they leave the party, it just goes down to the next person on the list because you voted for a party prospectus based upon the list of candidates. In first past the post, you have a specific constituency, and when you stand for an election, you stand for that election on a manifesto and then a pledge to carry out those manifesto commitments in government. By defecting to a party that is going to block those manifesto commitments from getting put into power, or at least try to, say for example if there wasn't a Conservative majority or if they didn't have majority support amongst the internal party, then that is literally a betrayal of the democratic participation of the people who elected you in the first place on those manifesto pledges. It's why, for example, it's ridiculous for MPs to back a bunch of Sunak stuff that he's won no election to be able to put through, like cancelling HS2, because there's no democratic mandate for it.
Match and watch the players in blue, and halfway through when they're losing, they put a red shirt on and play for the opposition. I'd be very angry as a fan, and I think the voters should be very angry too.
I mean, footballers do switch allegiances, of course, and change
Not during the
teams.
game.
Or no, not during the game. No, that really would be something. My
So
goodness.
a transfer
Okay, well, look,
windows elections
great.
now.
Yeah, we're going to go into the January election window. We get to, but to be fair, the governments are often overpriced in January. I find it's best to wait for the summer.
Ian's question is, will Natalie Elphicke be an asset to the Labour Party or a liability? And I wonder if you might address the woman's
Yeah,
question there
no,
about
definitely.
whoever gets in, will they be full of promises, which actually won't amount to,
Yeah, look, I think what's interesting about this is that anyone who's criticised Labour recently has been told you're just trying to get the Tories in, and here's Keir Starmer literally getting the Tories into his own party. And this isn't just any Tory, as we've heard. She's pretty right-wing. She's made some bad comments about Starmer. She's also made some pretty terrible comments about the victims of her ex-husband's sexual assault. And I mean, just imagine if you are a sexual assault survivor looking at this image of Elphicke sitting behind Keir Starmer, what are you going to think? Are you going to think I'm able to trust this party?
I mean, I should point out, Grace, as you know, that
I'm actually very right-wing.
She's apologised, yeah, which, again, an interesting double standard.
Well, that's fine. Yeah, it's fine that happened then. Yeah, that's super awesome. I mean, for instance, it would be interesting to hear if TERFs have anything to say about this, or are they still riding the Keir Starmer train because of the Cass report bullshit?
Indeed,
I wonder. It would appear that they don't really care about women and women's safety. It's mainly about bashing the transes.
True. I mean, again, like, if I was like a lefty on here as well, like, who's somebody who has loads of public support for like basic good politics? And that's Marcus Rashford for being the leader of the opposition for a month, trying to get the Conservative Party to continue with free school meals. And she tried to mock him when he missed a penalty, saying he's spent too much time trying to help children. And I'm like, that's who you want to have in your party, Keith? Go ahead, mate.
Yeah.
I won't be voting for it.
Also, I'm fine with him missing penalties as long as children don't starve.
Yeah,
like,
what's more
I like
important?
football. I like football, but like if he misses a penalty, but children don't, if there's a red button that says Marcus Rashford misses a penalty, but children don't starve, I'm going to be headbutting that fucking button. Yeah.
Standard there, right? She said something pretty terrible and she apologised, and Keir Starmer has welcomed her open arms into the Labour Party. Diane Abbott a while ago said something that she regretted that was wrong. She apologised, and she is still not inside the Labour Party. This is a woman who receives more abuse than any other MP, a woman who has been a long-serving Labour MP. And I just find that double standard really, really upsetting, actually. And I think it speaks to the point that the lady made about, can we really trust politicians? I think this actually sits at the core of our democracy right now. Trust in political parties is at all-time lows because people see politicians making promises and then going into Westminster and saying, oh, it's actually too difficult, there's no money left, we can't do any of the things that we promised you. And it's, I think, a really cynical move on the part of our politicians just to say, that we couldn't possibly fulfill these promises that we've been making to people. Even more cynical not to even make the promises in the first place, as I think Keir Starmer is failing to do, because you basically say either there's not enough money left to fix the NHS or I'm going to encounter too much opposition, I can't possibly do anything. We have gone through in this parliament, this has been the first parliament in modern history where living standards have fallen. And that comes on the back of the longest period of wage stagnation since the 1800s. People are desperate for change. And if politicians don't deliver that, I'm worried about the future for our democracy.
And Grace, I'm right in saying, am I not?
Very good points, but I am slightly surprised that none of the parliaments of the 80s saw a drop in living standards.
That you have long, certainly under Corbyn, were a Labour supporter. Will you be voting Labour at the next election?
I left the Labour Party over its stance on Gaza. It was after Keir Starmer's LBC interview where he said that he basically thought that Israel had the right to cut off water and electricity to Gaza, which I think now is very clear constitutes a war crime. But that is not the only reason I've got. I'm also really disappointed with the dropping of the £28 billion pound pledge to invest in decarbonisation. I'm disappointed in the fiscal rules and the fact that we're not considering raising any taxation on the wealthy, on big businesses. I'm disappointed in the watering down of the one last good thing that was there, which was the New Deal for workers. I'm just looking at Keir Starmer now.
On May
and even
Day.
as someone who I'm not going to vote for him, but I'm like, what's left?
Lisa, let me come back to you, because I know you want to respond to what Grace had said. But in terms of the question about Diane Abbott, so Diane Abbott, trailblazer for the Labour Party, longest-serving black woman MP.
I'm dreading this answer.
She got the numbers wrong one time. She's an electoral liability, Kev. She at some
she
point
drank a mojito on a train.
Yeah, at one point she said words. She said she said naughty words about their emotional support ethno state. Therefore, no can do. no bueno.
There's been some kind of investigation going on to comments that she made, which she has apologised for something like a year now.
Yep.
Now, how can that still be going on, and she's not admitted it back into the Labour Party, when Natalie Elphicke's admitted in, and then she apologises?
Well, look,
it's a matter of 24 hours.
Yeah, but the thing is, she's apologised, but she's still actually racist behind the scenes, so she is acceptable. Whereas Diane Abbott isn't racist and has apologised for the iffy thing she said, but because of the lack of racism, she's not allowed back in.
True.
That is how it works now.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about Diane. She's someone who has been a good colleague to me. I like her. I admire the impact that she's made. Trailblazer is the word that's most often used to describe her. And
The word "but" is coming, and then the thing that she will say after the word "but," I may scream.
Looking forward to it.
Get ready.
That not appear to be a
right.
double standard.
Well, look, but you've got to remember why we've got an independent disciplinary process. This is not the same as joining a party. This is about a disciplinary process. And the reason we've got an independent disciplinary process is because under our previous leader, he and his cheerleaders brought the Labour Party to its
Independent disciplinary process. What was it then when you were going to have to discipline Azhar Ali for his comments about October the 7th? The by-election candidate in Rochdale. Why did there have to be a 5-hour meeting on the appropriate response in the leader of the opposition office before you removed support for him as a candidate? Why was there a 5-hour meeting about that if it's from an independent disciplinary process and not being interfered with by the leader of the opposition office, again, which was a legal judgment handed down to them by the Equality and Human Rights Commission? So that's clearly not independent at all, is it, Lisa? No, indeed it's not. And also she's going to say the previous leader interfered with it. And thus the people who were interfering it were people at HQ like Ian McNichol who were getting in the way of the disciplinary process.
Yeah.
Your side of the party.
in our history, where the Equality and Human Rights Commission opened an investigation into anti-Semitism in the Labour Party and found that we had become an anti-Semitic party. And
no, they didn't. They absolutely did not say. They explicitly did not say that the party was anti-Semitic. They said that there were instances in which the anti-Semitism had not gone, the disciplinary process had failed to challenge anti-Semitism. But we all have all of the information we know about the levels of anti-Semitism within political parties in this country, and Labour scored less in terms of anti-Semitic attitudes than the Conservative Party. The EHRC report did not at any point call the Labour Party itself anti-Semitic. That is a lie, Lisa Nandy. A lie, and a deliberate one that you want to use and you love because it allows you to attack anybody to the left of Gerhard Schroeder as being persona non grata.
Yeah. Disgusting stuff. Also, what I will point out to Lisa Nandy, if the EHRC had found that the Labour Party had become anti-Semitic, why didn't you leave? So glad the adults are back in the room.
The central recommendation of that report, which Keir Starmer took seriously, I take seriously, and the whole of the front bench takes seriously, is that never, ever again will friends or factions of the leadership interfere in disciplinary processes. That's why I have nothing to do with the investigation into Diane, but I very much hope it's resolved quickly.
I mean, a year.
Well, look,
it's not some complicated issue.
I hope it's resolved quickly, but what I would just say in relation to the defection that we've seen in the last 24 hours is this. I very much agree with you that people's constituents should have the right to choose their member of parliament and the party
so we should have
that
a
they
new
stand
election.
for. But there is one very clear way that can happen after a series of endless by-elections over the last 12 months, all of which have resulted in the same result. Rishi Sunak could call an election. Natalie Elphicke wants that. The Labour Party wants that. I think the country wants that. The only person who doesn't seem to want that is Keir Starmer. And I just wanted to address the lady's point about promises.
She
Freudian
misspoke.
slip.
Yeah, okay. You're getting sacked in the morning.
Because I think this is incredibly important. I think for all political parties, this is the biggest challenge at the next election. And I'm afraid I won't take any lectures from Grace, who was a champion for a manifesto that was fundamentally dishonest at the last election. We had one party going into it saying we can do everything, we can spend all the money in the world, and we can deliver
Labour Party.
You mean that manifesto that you were elected on?
I think this woman is an absolute fucking disgrace. A genuinely disgraceful human. How fucking dare she call people who know how economics works liars? Say, oh, we can spend all this money. Yes, because they were going to be taxing rich people and using fiscal expansion and monetary finance of government spending, which you can now do because you've left the European Union. That was an explicit position which was advised and also endorsed by a whole host of economists in an open letter to The Guardian. How fucking dare you, Lisa, try and tell us that we are liars for proposing sound economic policy while you deliberately lie to the public, trying to say there's no money left and there's no magic money tree. What an absolute disgrace to politics she is. Honestly, she's a vile human being. Nobody is lower than somebody who can lie whilst accusing other people of lying. This Davos shit. What an absolute fucking disgrace.
Yeah, it's gaslighting nonsense. Yeah. But broader point to that even is that you say she stood by that manifesto. You stood by that manifesto. An election in Wigan and were elected by the people of Wigan on that manifesto that you're now saying was a massive pile of shit. So you were happy to be part of an anti-Semitic party. You stood on a pile of shit manifesto. You really ought to resign. You're a piece of shit.
It's almost like this is political positioning to try and manufacture consent for her right-wing political project, and nothing to do with principles or the Labour Party or electability or anything like that. Because if it was to do with any of the other things, she would have taken action before 5 years down the line. But no, in fact, she's all about the political machinations and nothing to do with principles, because nobody on the Labour right does, because again, they're all just disgraceful, despicable human beings who are not worth your vote, and you should not vote for them under any circumstances at any level. Do not vote Labour at all.
And note that Lisa Nandy has taken aim at Grace Blakeley, the leftist economist person, whereas she's absolutely fine with Natalie Elphicke, a rape apologist, at least in the past, person who's voted for the Rwanda bill a million times, voted for all the austerity, and is generally one of the most ghoulish people that's ever sat in that parliament, certainly in recent times. Note who she's attacking and who she's defending out of those two women.
Exactly. These people
give you an indication of where they're at, you know?
Absolutely everything, knowing full well that they couldn't. And we had another political party.
Lisa?
Sorry, Grace, you had a long say. And actually,
You've had two.
what that did, many working people across this country, was rob them of any hope that things could possibly get better, because against that...
Hang on a minute. Whoa.
Surely Keir Starmer literally saying things can't get better, we won't change anything for the... Surely that has robbed everyone.
I'm going to directly quote Wes Streeting here by saying that no hope is better than false hope. Wes Streeting is literally standing, explicitly saying that there's no hope.
Yeah.
I have no hope. I have no fucking hope for the Labour Party to get anything better. There's no magic money tree. We won't tax the rich, even though we literally could tomorrow if we wanted to. There's no money left. We'll let councils go bust. We can't promise that we can build the houses yet, but we'll try. Hopefully the private sector will allow us to. How dare you? How you utterly putrid human piece of shit, Lisa. She's made me so furious.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, this is one of the most debased performances I've seen on this program.
Yeah, a scumbag.
That's saying
Scum.
something.
Scum.
Yeah, this is fucking awful. You are a tragic human being, and honestly, I this is where I wish I believed in heaven and hell, because at least I could take comfort from knowing that this bitch is going to roast forever.
You had Boris Johnson and these big promises of levelling up that have come to absolutely nothing. So when we say we are going to implement the New Deal for working people, when we say we are going to get Britain built...
Yeah, because you've now gutted it to the point where it's meaningless.
Literally, where now all of the businesses feel relaxed about it. Now that you've been lobbied by the CBI and Rupert Soames, that guy's related to all of those Tory MPs, and you now have members of the Confederation of British Industry as MPs in your party. Now the businesses are now relaxed that there's not going to be too much red tape around them, i.e. you've completely gutted the bill now. In fact, Sharon Graham today was posting about how it's essentially ideological treason, and I would agree, and how the leaked actual documents of what it is basically means that it's a complete shadow of what it was previously. Your own... Remember, Unite fund you, Lisa. Unite, the union, fund you to the tune of £11 billion. And here you are, essentially incinerating all support that they could give at the whims of the businesses who they are supposed to be the ones fighting. The union's the ones supposed to be fighting those businesses. Again, it's just treason. This is literal treason to the Labour movement. It should be disgusted.
Yes. Also, right, Lisa, fucking hell. You can't, it's not a flex for you to be like, when we promise that we're going to implement this thing, which means nothing and offers no increase in rights whatsoever, we mean it. It's not a flex.
Exactly.
That's
100%.
We have promised you we will do nothing, and when we do nothing, we will have met that commitment. Thanks, Lisa. Really, you've brought such hope into my life.
You can absolutely rest assured that we mean it and that we're going to deliver it.
But Lisa, your kind of visceral hatred of everything that happened during the Corbyn era, and I think this is true of lots of people in the Labour leadership, means that you've looked at that manifesto, seen there was a lot in it, that is true, and just said anything that Corbynism has touched, we can't go near, which means that you have a manifesto that's basically empty.
That's just rubbish.
It's got effectively nothing in it.
I'll give you one example of that. Just last week, we announced that we're going to take our rail franchises back into national ownership
at the cost of zero.
Expire. We're not going to.
Yeah, they usually let the contracts expire.
And also, like, we've already had like 5 different franchises come into public ownership under the Conservative government. This isn't radical. In fact, your plan for Great British Railways is just a copycat of a literal policy of the Boris Johnson government as a result of Grant Shapps' review into the rail industry that's creating a public body to oversee all rail delivery in this country. You're just rebadging a Boris Johnson policy and then nationalising a bunch more franchises after ones that already have been nationalised. This isn't radical.
To promise to buy them out because we don't think we should be using people's money to bail out shareholders. It's their money and they haven't got a lot of it. But what we are going to do is put our railways back in public hands for the public good. So I'm afraid that's just not.
So you think that having things owned by the public is good for the public? Yeah, I agree. So why are you planning to do none of that then?
There's no magic money tree, Kevin. Oh, no magic money tree, apart from the rich who we use to tax.
Lots of magic money tree there. Magic money tree for nuclear weaponry. Yeah, lots of magic money tree going on there.
Not true.
This is what...
Sorry, I know you want to come, but I'm going to bring the audience in as well, if you forgive me. Yes, the man there in the green top.
Just to pick you up on a point, she wasn't wanting a general election. If she wanted a general election, she would have defected to an independent. She wanted publicity. She wanted her point of fame. If she wanted to do it because she believed in it, she would have done it quietly. Not at PMQ, not drumming up all the support and everything else behind it. She's an opportunist, and you look bad because you're siding with opportunists, and you're siding as though you'll sell your soul.
They're run by opportunists.
Please don't do that.
Ian, you wanted to come back in because you asked the question.
If you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.